All happy on that for the moment then? Excellent. Right, we're on the next topic now, page 21. We're now looking at different teaching methods and which ones might be better than others. So if I could ask you to read to the top of page 21, but don't do anything yet. So you've got a list of different teaching methods underneath, A to G, and you're going to be working in a pair or a three, which ones are better than others, by ranking them. Number 1 is the best, down to number 7, which is the worst. And the important phrase in the instructions is that you're looking at a national average and you're excluding your own personal preference for learning. So you're looking at the UK as a whole. Let's just go through this list then. I think we're all happy with A and B. Looking at C and D, would you say they are generally andragogic, or which one is generally andragogic and which one is very pedagogic?
C's andragogic.
Yes.
D's pedagogic.
So that might influence then your ranking. In E, audiovisual, imagine bunging on a DVD for half an hour. And we're treating these in isolation. We're not mixing and matching, which you might normally do. F, the demo is done by the teacher only, so the learners are just looking. And discussion groups excludes the tutor. On the next page you have a table then. In your 2s or a 3 then, you're going to be working out which one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So John and Ryan, could you be one pair? Erica and Rob, could you be the other pair? And could you sort of manage to scrunch together Vivian, Chris and Dave? So what you're trying to do then is to put A might be number 7, B might be number 4, C might be number 6, D might be 1. You cannot have the same number for different teaching methods. So over to you, discuss, debate, argue, and then we'll see what you've got to do. All done? Okay then, could you give me your list from A down to G?
So A is 1, B is 5, C is 3, D is 6, E is 7, F is 2, and G is 3.
Thank you very much. Right, so you've got all your colleagues' numbers on the screen there. And we've got some commonality, haven't we? So you've said A was pretty good, whereas D perhaps wasn't terribly good, neither was E. So what's going on in A that isn't going on in D and E?
It's the practice, it's actually the involvement, where A and D is you're just sitting there looking, you're not actually engaging, you're just watching a screen.
Yes.
Practice makes better.
You can
Yes.
easily get by with them without learning. You can easily sit there and just look out the window.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So in A, there's lots going on then, because you're using perhaps all your senses. You're hearing, you're seeing, and you're doing. Whereas in D and E, you may or you may not be listening, because that's the only sense that is required generally, perhaps, in those two. Now, we're now going to look at the research answers and what they suggest. So you're going to fill in the final column now, and I'm going to pop these answers on the screen. There they go. So A was 2, and so on. So have a look at the screen and copy them down into that last column.
Okay, what was ours? 1627.
But then, again, we're pretty close, aren't we?
Yeah, lots of you are very close.
Just flip to
It's not way off.
We only swapped one round, got all the rest.
Just a little quick. You see, I was thinking.
Yeah, we got all them, yeah, it's just one 1 and 2, wasn't it?
Because you have to think
That
of
was
the
it.
average lot,
Yeah.
So, as I said, lots of you were very, very close, but we've got to bear in mind that the research answers are not the definitive answer. They're just an answer, perhaps, but it's been done using the research protocols in a university. And perhaps that's an issue, because it's a university, perhaps, rather than a place of work. But it's quite interesting in that A was number 2, but C was number 1, and maybe in C, teaching others, you have to do lots of stuff, but then it goes a stage further by you having to then present it to your colleagues with peer teaching. So you're doing practice by doing, but you're taking it further by having the confidence and the skills and the knowledge and the understanding to give a coherent explanation to your colleagues. So it's gone through a little bit of a change there. It's gone through your own body, and now it's popped out when you do some peer teaching. Clearly, they say 90% recall, so very high recall rate. So peer teaching can yield people remembering 90% of the stuff you want them to remember. Whereas perhaps with lecturing, it's only 5%. Now if you think of health and safety particularly, if people are only remembering 5% of a lecture, that means they've forgotten 95% of it, which is a bit dangerous and a bit worrying perhaps. But if they remember 90%, it seems they're going to be a lot more safer, amongst many other things. Right, let's take it a little bit further, because on page 23 now, you have a review of where that research came from. So have a read of all of page 23. We've been looking at item number 1 on the list, Dale's learning pyramid. Importantly, near the bottom it says the pyramid opposite is contentious. So some people discredit this research completely. But I've only popped it there to illustrate the fact that as intelligent people, it says, we can see that the principle of using a variety of interactive teaching methods may facilitate motivation in people wanting to learn. If you're boring them senseless, they are not going to want to learn. If they've got interesting stuff to do, they will. What does it tell us our instinctive reaction to stress might be?
Close down.
Close down, so that's going to be
We don't think straight. And things like that.
yes. So that's going to be flight perhaps, or freeze, yeah?
Yeah.
So we've got fight, flight or fright, flight, flight or freeze. So exactly as you said. Now if you're in the armed services, what do you do to stop freezing in combat conditions?
You put them in scenarios
Yes.
where they get used to that situation.
Yeah. Whereas as a civilian, we aren't in those scenarios, so we just cease to function properly. And that apparently is all to do with the reptilian brain. Our reptilian brain is the instinctive part of our brain. It's an unconscious thing. When are we hungry? When are we tired? When do we do certain things? It's all about what our old brain tells us to do, but we're not aware of it. So we've got a new brain as a human being, the neocortex. Could I ask you now to read paragraphs 3 and 4? Yes, when we can use our emotions as we learn. It says we are good learners and can remember things well when we can use our emotions as we learn. So if you think on some programs, will 100 slides of PowerPoint engage emotions?
No.
Possibly not. But would an interesting case study where you debate, discuss in pairs and then the whole group, might that be more emotional?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you might remember it more. That's exactly what it is. As human beings, we're social, we like to do stuff with other people, and we like to problem solve. We do not like to sit there for too long, generally speaking. And some of us absolutely hate sitting being taught at for too long.